So you've seen all the coverage for the Apple Watch Ultra. It's an Apple Watch that pushes boundaries for athletes who do the same. Their words, not mine. But as an ultramarathon runner and someone who used to wear an Apple Watch and then switched over to a Garmin, I want to quickly talk about what this watch does that's bad, good, and maybe a little bit about the future of the Apple Watch Ultra. Before we get started, I want to take a quick minute to talk about my history with the Apple Watch. I started off with a Series 2 and then a Series 4, and those watches definitely helped me in becoming a recreational athlete. But as soon as my cycling or running events started to go 4 or 5 hours, not continuously but with breaks in between, I realized that the Apple Watch just couldn't keep up with all of those demands. That's when I switched over to a Garmin Forerunner 935 because I wanted more battery life, and then eventually moved over to a Garmin Instinct Solar because the heart rate monitor on the 935 wasn't that great, and solar meant that I would have even more battery to spare. And that brings me to now, where I wear a Garmin Fenix 7 Solar Sapphire. I know it's a long name, but it has a solar panel on it which helps it recharge a little bit as you're doing activities or you're just out in the sun. And as the video goes along, I'll share more in detail about what were my experiences when I made these transitions. Okay, so first the obvious one, battery life. So I'm sitting there watching the Apple event and I watched this.
Gets up to 36 hours, can even get up to 60 hours of battery life.
Hours, and the regular standby time is 36 hours. That's crazy compared to what a Garmin watch can give you, because Garmin watches measure their standby times, which is just regular smartwatch mode, in months as they advertise on their Instagram channel, as opposed to hours here. Now I'm sure the Apple Watch doesn't do just 36 hours and they're being very conservative with their numbers. Perhaps it goes on to 48 hours, 2.5 days maybe. But that still pales in comparison to what Coros and Garmin offer in their top of the line watches, where I think the Garmin Enduro goes up to 60 days in smartwatch mode, and activity tracking can go up to 7 days, which is just absolutely crazy. And in their respective power saver modes, I'm sure they go even higher than that. Now, as a case in point, one popular race in the US is called the Leadville 100, where it's a 100-mile race, and the cutoff times for that race is about 30 hours. So the Apple Watch Ultra won't even last this 100-mile race, let alone races that are longer than that, like a 240-mile race or something like that, which is the highest that I know of at least. Next, there's no physical buttons. If you haven't experienced a watch with physical buttons, you haven't really experienced what a good sports smartwatch might be, because it really helps to not have to look down to interact with your watch, and just using the buttons, you know what you're doing because you're in the habit of doing it. And so starting, stopping, pausing, or going through data fields on a Garmin watch is much easier because you don't need to interact with the screen with your sweaty fingers, or if it's raining or anything like that. And that seems to be the primary mode for most of the interactions on the Apple Watch Ultra. It really does help that they have a second button on the side, but you can only program it to do so many things. On the Garmin watch, for example, you have 5 buttons on here, and I think Coros and other watches also have a similar setup. Point being that the touchscreen on the Apple Watch Ultra is a negative when looking at it from a sports watch perspective. I do have a touchscreen on this Fenix 7, but I only use it occasionally in the day, especially when I'm not exercising. In fact, when I'm exercising, the touchscreen on this watch is completely turned off, so there are no accidental touches based on water or sweaty fingers or anything like that. Next, there's no constant heart rate monitoring on the Apple Watch Ultra. I am still guessing that this is the case because my Series 4 used to measure heart rate every once in a minute, whereas this Garmin Fenix 7, if I can just quickly wrap it out, is still monitoring heart rate every single second. Stops right there when there's no wrist to go on, but if I were to put it right on and then immediately show you, it is still monitoring heart rate right there with the green sensor. Now this leads to derivative features down the line for things like stress measurements, body battery, training recovery, things like that, where they help you understand how hard or not you should push throughout the day for the given exercise specifically that you have in mind. This next one's more of a general point where it encompasses all of the watchOS perspective of the Apple Watch Ultra. To me, running is like meditation. You know, I want to be in the zone. I want to not be bothered by this, that, and the other thing. Maybe if a phone call comes in, I'll pick that up. But aside from that, I'm not looking at anything. So the watchOS bits of it, all of the apps and the smart features that the Apple Watch offers, are a complete negative for me. For me, I'd rather not have the watchOS bits and save up on battery. So it kind of feels like it's the touch bar on the Mac, where I know that they offer it as a feature, but for me it's a detriment. The only thing I will use a lot if I had it on this watch is some sort of a voice assistant, because I use timers quite a lot on the watch throughout the day, and being able to do that with my voice is much better than clicking through buttons or even swiping through the UI to get the timer set up. This next one's more of a personal opinion, and it's along the lines of the design of the Apple Watch Ultra. Visually, it kind of looks like a growth on the right side in a very grotesque way, and I don't know why it is, but the Garmin Instinct that I owned never looked like that to me. In fact, the flat edge on the right side helped me press the buttons even easier. And when I was hearing the rumors that the Apple Watch is going to have protective casing around the buttons, I was thinking something more like my G-Shock 9400 right here, where if you see the buttons, they are surrounded by the case in a way that they are protected all around unless some pointed object directly hits the buttons. This design seems to me to be far more effective at protecting the buttons long term, even better maybe than my Fenix 7 over here. Also keep in mind that watches from Garmin and these other brands offer far more features at much cheaper prices. An example of this might be the Forerunner 255, which offers about 14 days of smartwatch time and includes all of the features we've talked about with the Fenix 7 so far at a price of about $350. It does lack the multi-GPS support, however. Lastly, there are just some missing software features on the Apple Watch Ultra that do exist on watches like this Garmin, but it is still worth mentioning, even though they may be able to fix it long-term by software updates. Some of these features are the ability to load a route on your watch with checkpoints and aid stations built in, Pace Pro, which is something Garmin offers, which can tell you how you want to go about certain segments of your race, taking into account the elevation, the descent, how further off you are from the pace you want to be at, or how further ahead you are, and you can take some time to slow down, etc. Okay, so enough of the bad, now let's come to the good. What's really good about this Apple Watch Ultra? To appreciate what's really good about this watch, you need to stop thinking about it as a watch for extreme or ultra endurance athletes, and instead just think about it as a watch for people who already own the Apple Watch, or somebody who's doing a 10K, a half marathon, or even a marathon. When you do this, the perspective with which you look at this watch changes quite a bit, and suddenly this watch starts to look really nice. It's the best watch for iPhone users who already own an Apple Watch or maybe wanting to buy one, and now instead of the 1.5 days or so that you used to get with Series 7, you would get twice the amount of battery life on an Apple Watch without giving up the features that you're so interested in a smartwatch. On the other hand, it could be for people who are 10K runners, half marathon runners, even marathon runners, and don't really mind charging the watch throughout the day. It also helps to have an Apple Watch that is more rugged than its predecessors. This thing's been tested for the military 810 standard, just like this Fenix 7 over here. So you get a certain peace of mind going about your day, not having to worry about your watch bumping into a wall or a door or something like that. Next, the thing that's staring us all in the face, this Apple Watch has a much larger display than the other ones at 49mm compared to 45 of the Series 8. And I'm not going to sit here and bore you with the benefits of having a larger display like Apple did in the iPhone section.
With a larger display, you can enjoy more content when browsing the web. You can see more text or larger text.
I'm pretty sure you get what a bigger display means. Next, there's the best watch factor. This is for people who are completely price insensitive and just want the best that Apple has to offer. This watch is the best that they have to offer. And lastly, I think that the software on the Apple Watch looks much better than it does on the Garmin. On the Garmin, you need to be motivated enough to figure out how things work, and once you form a habit, you form a habit and it's easy. But on the Apple Watch, things just seem far more intuitive from a software perspective as it relates to the watch itself. I'm not fully sure how the iPhone plays into all of this. Okay, then let's end this with some speculation about the future of Apple Watch, Garmin, etc., and just get my thoughts on what this might look like going forward. Why is Apple really pursuing this? If their goal really is to get, as it's mentioned over here, the upper end of the sporting community, I really wonder what the total addressable market of this kind of a product is. Because if you think about it, this website over here says the total number of marathon runners was about 1.1 million worldwide. This was as of 2018, so if you quadruple the numbers by 2021, hoping that that includes all other extreme sport activities and includes any changes or increases in the number of athletes since 2018, you come out to about 5 million by rounding up then. I don't even think 5 million is a drop in the bucket for Apple, even ignoring the fact that not all of those 5 million users are going to be an iPhone user. I think that the long-term play here would be to look at the Apple Watch Ultra as just a premium Apple Watch. That makes the total addressable market of this product to be the entire iPhone user base, which is a far, far bigger number than some measly 5 million people who are running around doing ultramarathons in their day. Another worry I have is Apple canning this product before the software has any chance to get up to speed with the Garmin and the Coroses of the world. Because Apple has had a history of cancelling products that haven't done so well. You can think about the Apple Watch Edition, you can think about the original HomePod. They don't really shy away from cutting out products entirely from their lineup if they aren't doing too well. And just to be clear, I do want the Apple Watch Ultra around and to succeed and maybe even be really competitive with the Garmin watches that exist right now. More competition in this space benefits everybody and forces the Garmin, the Coros, the Wahoos of the world to up their game significantly, which is a good segue into the Garmin and other sport watch side of this equation. More competition in this space, like I said, benefits us. So maybe the Garmin Fenix 8 has a significantly better feature set compared to what they would have had, given that now Apple has entered the game. Lastly, I was kind of surprised that Apple didn't pursue aggressively the strength training angle in this watch, because watches like this Garmin are completely terrible at the gym. When you're doing an exercise like a leg press where there isn't really too much movement of the wrist, you're just sitting over there and your legs are extending. I think that the Apple Watch with its machine learning capabilities would do far better at assessing how many reps and sets you've done in the gym, because this kind of a problem where you really need extrapolation from sensors lends itself quite well to ML, and ML is far better on an Apple Watch than it is on a Garmin like this. So it would be interesting to have features, things like being told how off your form is compared to what it should be, automatically measuring and logging your sets and reps, as I mentioned, and to just back it up completely with all of the software ecosystem that Apple has a much better handle over than a Garmin or Coros does. Okay, that's going to be it from me for this video. I am hoping that Apple is underselling the battery life on the Apple Watch Ultra, but that remains to be seen in the reviews, which I am really looking forward to. Until next time, take care.